guys, it doesn't matter.
Alum the Dream.
And this is episode 27 of our podcast, Confessions of a Stan Mixer Edition. And today we are going to be doing a Glory Days documentary review, kind of the same way that we did one for the LM5 tour film. You guys really liked that one, actually, and we were actually a bit surprised by it. But we thought that because you guys enjoyed that one so much, it would be fun for us to do the Glory Days doc one as well. Maybe in a wild world we'll get crazy if you guys still like these, and maybe we'll do like the Get Weird performances too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I always forget about those.
I know. But I have them, so
You do?
mhm. So if you guys want to see us continue this little review type of episode, I don't know what to call it, guys. If you guys want us to chat about
The
and
series.
analyze, the Get Weird official videos, tour videos, as well as the Glory Days doc, and we did the LM5 tour film before, then let us know down in the comments, and we will add that to our list. All right, so today we are going to do this in a very similar format that we did the LM5 tour film one. I think, do you want to first tackle it from like a producer standpoint?
Sure.
Like
Are
pro
we
and con
gonna?
both?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then okay, so guys.
Context.
Yeah, context. So we organized this, so like we looked at it from like a producer filmmaking analysis type of view, the same way we did like the LM5 tour, where we were commenting a lot on like editing and all of that. And then we also took a look at it, the Glory Days one, from a fan perspective. So we kind of separated those two different categories out. And so, first off, we're going to start with producer pro and cons. Producer just meaning like a more analytical view of it from a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go for your first one?
Sure. So, my first, I guess, like, bit of praise, the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I liked about it, I guess, is I like how they split it into sections. They had a good idea behind that to try to make it a little bit easier to follow. And then how once like the documentary is over and you just need certain scenes, like parts of it, I don't know what to call them, like the little things that you have on Apple Music, like on iTunes, or I think it might even be on YouTube at this point. I have no idea. Um, it makes it easier to like watch those grouped up. Um, I do have a con to that, but I'll get to that later in the con section. But I like their idea behind it. Like they had a good motive, I guess, is like my little thing.
Yeah, so I own them digitally. Like I own the doc digitally. And
Mm.
so I do see it in iTunes the way you're kind of describing. And I do like it kind of set itself up for this, and there was some execution problems, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Um, but it set itself up to kind of be like a tour diary, giving the like location the girls were in, and talking about specific things that were happening during that time, and the kind of like the way it was set up. It was set up to kind of be a tour diary type of situation. And I did really like that idea. And there's some of it that was executed pretty well in that sense. Um, and so I do like that kind of different approach to it, because they did manage to include some pretty important things without having to turn it into like a feature film type of format.
Yeah. The next little thing that I liked was the style that they had. Um, they had it split up into, I guess, three different little sections. So they had the B-roll footage of just them getting ready behind the scenes, like backstage, just them having fun wherever they went.
I don't know if this is super condescending, so maybe it is, but in case it's not, for anyone who doesn't know, B-roll is like visuals for you to watch while you listen to voiceover.
Yeah, like the secondary footage while the primary thing is being focused on.
Yeah, so like it's used a lot in documentaries, it's used a lot in um like things that use archives to support anything.
Yeah.
And it's just a way to like from like a filmmaking perspective, it's a way to keep a viewer like engaged while giving them the primary information that they need audibly.
Yeah. So they had a lot of that, which was nice. Because it kind of included a bunch of like little scenes that we maybe hadn't seen before, or just ones that were kind of funny. And then they had the individual interviews that kind of narrated the entire thing. So that was a good setup. And then they had the primary shots, which were like the main focus point. And so each one gave like a nice variety of footage, and they all worked pretty well together.
Kind of related to what you were just saying about the B-roll, I actually think the directing is really nice. There's a really good like visual cohesiveness, even though they literally are traveling around like the entire world throughout the entire documentary. um and I think that like the style choices throughout, the editing choices, those are all very cohesive. The font choices, like the effects, like all of that stuff, which is nice. And then I think that the girls were all very comfortable and honest. And so it really comes off as like genuine, authentic. And I think that the way that some of the B-roll and the voiceover was matched up was actually really nicely done. Like Jade talking about how it's not all glamorous to be a pop star while we watch them be in a photo shoot. So I think that there were some nice pair ups between the B-roll and the voiceover and the editing. Everything was just cohesive and nice and like a good, easy like watch.
Yeah.
Fun fact, guys, this director is also the one who did Jesse's documentary.
So another thing that I liked was how each I guess each girl was featured pretty evenly. It was all divided out nicely. And so each one had a little focal point that they were focused on for like maybe a minute or two, but each one of them got it, I want to say a few times. So that was kind of nice that each of them kind of got to be in the spotlight for a second. Um, and we got to like learn more about them. And yeah, like it didn't have the feeling that one was being featured more than the other. So that was nice.
Something else that I like about the way the documentary is done is that it doesn't feel like rushed, or disconnected from a storytelling perspective. Even though it's covering months and months, it covers like half a year or so, um, maybe a little bit longer. So it covers like a huge amount of time for how short it is, really. And I think that it's it's not like you ever feel like they rushed through this or that, or that um, they omitted something that they quickly mentioned and then didn't tell you anything about later. Or, like it didn't feel like you were being force fed information like on a time constraint. Or I don't really know. I'm going to keep rephrasing this until it comes out the way I want it to. um, it just didn't feel like um, they were trying to force down information as quick as possible in order to make sure that they could tell you everything else they wanted to tell you. It felt like there was a nice kind of flow throughout the storytelling, and it didn't feel too rushed or like disconnected from each other.
So my last little, I guess, topic is kind of similar to yours, as in they had a lot of different events happening, and how it wasn't like rushed. Because we had two tours, the Brits, two music video shoots, and it still feels like we got footage and like content from each of those, and it feels complete. And so that's nice. And I like how they didn't just choose to focus on one or the other. They managed to fit all of them in. And so that was cool.
Yeah, that's what I like about the fact that the reason why it's like that is because it has like the the foundation slash potential of like tour diaries, right? Which is like you just
Hmm.
record whatever's happening at that moment in time, and that means that like it gets some view time. I mean, obviously you could in post decide to completely take out that entire storyline, but like technically speaking, if you didn't do that, you everything gets like its time, you know?
Yeah.
I guess that leads us on to our cons from a producer perspective.
Yeah.
um so like I said just now and at the start that I liked the idea of like the tour diary. I thought it was really neat, especially it being like professionally done. That being said, the structural intent was confusing.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is I don't understand if the intention was for it to be like individual tour diaries, like based on like their location or a time period. I don't know if the intent was for it to be like not actually meant to be a cohesive entire film, if like, or if it was meant to be a cohesive entire documentary. Um, it's very the intent of like how it was supposed to be formatted and structured and viewed is actually really confusing. And that affects a lot of the other critiques that we have.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one, I would say.
It's hard to critique something when you don't know what it's was supposed to be.
Yeah, you don't know the like initial
Like, what were you
idea behind
trying to
it.
be? Because I don't know if you were doing it right or wrong. Like,
Yeah, like I think they were trying to go for a chronological order because even they
but
would
like,
go
but
back and forth.
but like when you look at it from the like digital like album, right? Because guys,
Mhm.
I have on digital. It's not set up like that. It's set up by location.
Oh,
So that's why I thought like it's meant to be like a tour diary of like what happens like in that amount of time you're in that city.
yeah.
But it doesn't quite like follow that, like not everything is always within that city, like some of the b-roll is from previous areas or previous clips or like or sometimes like it's just like sometimes the things it's talking about like have nothing to do with like the city that it's in, like that the
Mhm.
subject of that like section is has nothing to do with the city. And so I don't know, it's kind of confusing. And then some of them are called like our locations, and then other ones are just song title names, and that's really confusing. Which brings me to my second critique, not to skip over one of yours. My apologies. You can go
It's
twice.
fine.
The naming of these sections on at least the digital version is very confusing because there are two touches. Maybe one of the touches is an actual music video, but they're labeled the same way. There's also a shout out to my ex. There's two shout out to my exes. Maybe one of them is an actual music video. There's a Black Magic. There's a FU. There's a secret love song. I like it's very confusing what's happening with the naming system. And like the difference between the ones that have like a song name and the ones that have a location name are like not significant whatsoever. Like the difference is that there'll be like a tour performance, like a professional tour, like a snippet of a professional tour recorded, like section, like this. It will start with that if it's like the song name, and if it's a location, then it starts like more of like a tour diary. Um, but even so, like the actual content that's in them isn't different in that sense outside of like how it starts. So it's confusing.
Yeah, like in my opinion, that wouldn't be the way I would have gone about it. But then again, we also don't know what their initial idea and motives were. um,
Yeah, that really is the problem. It's like we can't say they did it wrong or badly because we don't know what they were trying to do.
Yeah. So if I'm gonna kind of approach this as if they were trying to do a documentary style, like try to make it cohesive and not intentionally split it into groups, I would have done different sections. So like I kind of have examples of like the sections I would have had, and I just am curious if anybody would agree with me if this would make a little bit more sense. So I would have started with the Cities and Dangerous Woman tour. So for example, start in Phoenix, show the group activity or whatever they did, rehearsal, show, whatever it was from that city, and then move to the next city. um, and then when big stuff came up, like the music video shoots, just have that be towards the city. So for Nashville, show that as part of Nashville, but only have that footage in there so it doesn't get like jostled around and confused. And then when it comes to the Brits, I even though that happened in like the middle of the tour, I probably would have still stuck that in between Dangerous Woman and Glory Days just for my own sake because I'll get confused, but I would have made a point that it happened between this date and this date or this city and this city and kind of left it at that. And then if they wanted to keep the whole song title, I guess, sections, have that be when they go back to Europe and do the Glory Days tour. But if they're going to do the song sections, I feel like they should have gone in depth with those songs. Like, not just had the song, have
I
like,
would have
I don't
appreciated
know.
the entire performance of the song and not
Yeah.
a like 1 minute clip of it. Thank you.
Yeah, because they had like the 1 minute clip and then that was it for like the section. So I would have
It's a
had like,
huge tease. This is from a fan perspective now, but that's a huge tease.
yeah, so I would have probably had the entire clip and then maybe a few like words behind the song or something and then moved on. So I don't know, that's just kind of how my brain would have put it together if I was editing it, but I don't know. I just would have had it be very specific to that city and then if they wanted to go with the whole song idea, do that once they're back in Europe because they wanted to focus a lot on the Dangerous Woman tour and being in America. And so I feel like they should have kind of left it at, like separate. Um, and then my next topic goes into that. Like it's kind of a two-part. Um, it's just like because of that, the events jumped around a lot. So one day we see them at a signing, then they're bowling, then backstage, then Top Golf, and then it's back to the same day as the bus. Like it just kind of made it a hard timeline to follow. And then the same thing happened with the sections. They would introduce a city from Dangerous Woman tour, and then right after it would be a song and like footage from a performance in the Glory Days tour, even though we were still technically in the Dangerous Woman tour timeline. So it all was just kind of hard to follow. I mean, if you're like a hard fan and you know all the individual sections, it won't be hard to follow because you know, like in the back of your mind, oh, this is here, like this happened before this. But if you're kind of more casual, not so much into the fan, it's like or into the fandom, then was probably very confusing to watch. So yeah, that's my little
Yeah,
spiel.
that's why I feel like it wasn't meant to be like
Yeah,
a full like thing. I mean, it's how we consume it. So like maybe that should have been taken into consideration in the way in which it was like released and stuff.
yeah,
But that's why I feel like it's not meant to be consumed that way because even when you think about it like even documentaries have like overarching like storytelling that happens and that really doesn't happen
mm-mm,
um in this. Like it's not that type of film. So I feel like that's why I feel like it was supposed to be more of a tour diary thing, but I also don't think that was executed very well because again, even if you're looking at it from a tour diary perspective, it's really confusing that there are two tour diaries of Los Angeles, but it was like the same trip, and then there's like there's B-roll from like other like so for me, right, the b-roll being a mix match of different places is fine when it's in the song named section, because that's not like a tour date tour diary. That's just like a I think of that more as like a we're going to discuss like a specific thing, a specific event, a specific topic in this little like episode, right? And then that makes sense to me that it could just be like B-roll from anywhere and everywhere. But when you're doing B-roll like for the videos that are named after a location, to have the B-roll then be inconsistent is a little funky. Um so like that's weird. And I also felt like because of the weird like back and forth, um there was like a each episode like lacked a central focus, which I think like at my points just all lead into the next, so you can go next after me, blah blah blah. So you can go next after me. uh but like, so I think like in combination with that, the way the clips were organized, like how the different topics were paired together, is actually a little confusing. Like I can't really follow the logic of like why they were placed together, like why those instead of like a different two, three, four clips. And then because of that, because there's not like an easy to discern like reasoning or path or like story there, because the only story you can really get from these this is if it's like the location like of whatever's happening in that location, that time period of that city. When you talk about like the episodes that are like named after songs, or even like some of the poorly done like location videos, they lack a central focus to them. And weird bits will get like combined together. So it's like most of the episode is Jay talking about this in a talking head interview, but then we've also added in these weird other random clips that have nothing to do with that. And that just makes it feel like it's not really focused and well organized. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed was that like the interview topics were kind of all over the place. Um but they covered them, but I personally would have liked to have, I guess, more elaboration on them, because one of them, here, let me go back a little bit. Mainly, what would happen would be that one of them would be talking about a particular topic, but then it would cut to the next girl and it wouldn't be the same topic. Um, and so that kind of bothered me because I feel like, in a way, it was kind of choppy because, one, it just was a brief, quick little, I guess, explanation or discussion on whatever, and then it would just cut to something completely different, um, which is probably what they were going for. But I just like having more long, drawn out, I guess, discussions on topics, and that just wasn't really happening too much. Because they were talking about like role models, and then one of them was talking about Perry and describing Perry, and then one of them was talking about the X Factor and all that, and like their first time singing. And I just feel like it kind of made me get lost a little bit because I wasn't sure which topic we were on now. Um, so it's really more of a personal thing just because I get confused easily. But yeah, that was just something that I kind of started to notice as I was watching.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what I mean as far as like pairing the clips up.
Yeah.
Like it's just weird that, because again, like because I'm coming at it from the idea that they were meant to be tour diaries, so like each one is supposed to be its own individual thing, and it's
Yeah.
not meant to be cohesive on like as a whole film. Like it's like if you just paired the clips up better, then they would just make more sense. Even if like you're because those ones aren't those are like your song titled clips or videos, typically
Mhm.
speaking. So it's like, well, why did you pair them off that way? Like why wasn't it organized in a different fashion from like a storytelling like perspective, I guess. Yeah, so it's just that, like, the organizational and, like, the intent, and the naming system are all just a little bit funky.
I guess my last little critique is the intro in the beginning. Um, Intro that they had, I'm not a huge fan of, mainly because it's just really quick. Um, and so, again, this is more of a personal, I guess, style. I would have done it a little bit differently because theirs is just a little quick. I wouldn't call it a mashup, but it's just like a little thing of them winning the X Factor, and then it like I think it goes right into the visuals, and then it's like boom, documentary. um, and I would have done probably more of a quick pace recap of the last however many years before they got to this point in their career. So it was more of like a trailer, and it made it just a little bit more dramatic and exciting, rather than just a little mashup that you see on X Factor when someone gets introduced or something. Um, but that's again more of like a personal preference just because I like those things a little bit better. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I liked it the way they did it because, I don't know, I liked the tour diary style. I just wish it was done better.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if it was supposed to be like a cohesive film, then 100% agree with you. Then narratively, so much of it was a problem. Um,
Yeah.
Moving on to the fan perspective. Okay, so pros first.
Yeah.
Okay, I loved how it covered both the Dangerous Women tour and the Summer Shoutout tour. I just like that it covered like such a huge expanse because I think that it actually memorialized that era in a way, if that makes sense to anyone else.
Mhm.
Okay, good. You okay, good. And I just really like that, especially because I think that that era really aged very well and really has like a lot of significance and meaning. And so the fact that like they have on camera like them winning a Brit and
Yeah.
like touring in America and performing at Madison Square Garden and um like that's insane. Like so much of like the biggest moments of their career was caught by this documentary, and obviously like we don't get to see like everything in it, but like they get to have those memories, and like they probably have some of the footage that we don't have, or they know, Adam, who probably has the footage that they could ask for, and just like that's such a cool thing, that's such an amazing like successful time in their life where they were like hitting all of these like dream goals, is like memorialized for them, and then us for is like us as fans too, we got to see things that we wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise, and like see their excitement and what it was like for them to be doing all of that, and we got to like live it with them, and then because it's on film, people who weren't stands at the time can go back and watch it and like be part of that experience in that era with them, and I just think that's really special, and I like that about it.
Yeah, it's like a little scrapbook for the era.
Yeah.
um
Like, I don't know about you, when I think Glory Days era, I 100% think the first, like, I totally think of it as being everything except the Glory Days UK leg.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Like when I think about that era, like the last thing I think of is like, oh yeah, they toured November to December or October to December in the UK.
Yeah, I always forget that the documentary covers so much until I watch it. I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Like it
forgot that
covers
was
like
all in here."
probably like most of a year,
Yeah, I think
half a
so.
year to most of a year. Yeah.
Something that I like, this is like a really random thing, but I liked the beginning when they were on the bus because I feel like we don't have too much footage of them, I guess, being on the bus, and we always hear stories about it. And so I thought it was kind of cool, even though they were just getting on and kind of bringing their bags and stuff on. It was still kind of fun just to see them like in their element. um, yeah, that was just something small that I was like, oh. that was cool. Um, because I like little small little moments like that.
I agree with that. I actually liked the behind the scenes look that we got to some things, like them getting ready at the Brits and them being like coming off of like stage after like opening for Ariana, and like some of the B-roll of seeing them at like radio performances, and like, you know, we even have like the emotional moment of like Jade crying, you know, while trying to record something, um and then like you have like the rehearsal scenes for like the Brits in Nashville and in the UK, and I just think that like that stuff was really cool, and I actually wish, I'm gonna stop myself, that's a con. um and yeah, but I really liked that, and I liked getting to see a bit of the behind the scenes of like Power and No More Sad Songs and all of that stuff. I liked that it wasn't just like talking head interviews with like insignificant B-roll with like stage performance. You know what I mean? I like that it was more.
Yeah. Another thing that I liked, which kind of goes with my last, um, I guess, topic, is that I like the little random moments we get. Like we get to just see them having fun in the random cities that they're in. Like you have like them bowling and Jesse just chucking the bowling ball like halfway down the lane. And we have Top Golf, and it's just funny to see them all dressed up to go to Top Golf. And it's like just the small stuff like that that is like entertaining. And so you have it creates like a nice balance, because you have like some of the more emotional little parts, you have the serious uh parts where they talk about like stress of being in the group and having to get ready for the Brits and being in a different country. And so I feel like it balances it out pretty nicely. um and so that was a cool thing. um yeah, it was just like the little random moments that I thought were fun to see. And also some that we just had no context to, like why they were sitting in a bathroom doing, I don't even know what they were doing. Or
It's good for the voyeur tendencies.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I really love that as well. I like having like the little, um I mean, I just really like getting, even without the context, I still really like getting those little behind the scenes moments of like what I assume is probably them learning like the touch acoustic, or
Mm,
practicing it or something, rehearsing it, doing something with it while they were on the Dangerous Woman tour. um I don't know, I just think that I like them, or like even them like messing around in clips that like we know that interview or we know that performance, and then to see them messing around, or like to just see them like backstage, like the dancers want to wear ponchos and Perry's like, you're not wearing ponchos. um
yeah.
you know, like that's just, it's just a fun, like just fun clips that I liked. So I agree with you on that. I liked like the I liked how like endearing it was.
Mm,
That sounds like a weird one, but I just think that there was a really good mix between, you know, the girls talking about serious things like, you know, the LGBT community, you know, their families, what it means to them to be where they are, their dreams, their goals, what it was like on the X Factor. Like they have those conversations, but then, you know, we also get the girls trying to pack up for tour, or not for tour but in the middle of tour, and, you know, Jade sitting on her suitcase, and Perry shoving shoes into Leanne's backpack, and,
keep
you
still.
know,
Keep
yeah.
still.
And you know, we don't see Jess in that entire scene, but but you hear her hear her making weird noises in the back. You hear Leanne being like, Jesse, we're gonna miss our flight. Like, um and like you see like the tour manager being like, girls, like hurry up, like we're leaving in da 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 minutes. Like, and Mary be like, I'm getting naked. Like,
You don't need that with, or to take that with you, but I do. It won't make a difference.
no, guys, that's one of my favorites. Okay, so when, I don't know who it is, I think it's Zach or Jamie, but I can't really see. And they're like holding up her power skirt. Like, you can't even really call it a skirt, but like they're holding that up. And they're like, And she's like, I need all of this. And they're like, you need this? And she's like, okay, well, and she takes it for them and she like puts it down. And she's like, well, that's not going to make much of a difference now, is it? And you know what? She's right. um, but like I just think that like those were those like really endearing moments that like someone could have like the director could have been like those don't help tell a story and just completely scrapped them. But I think they're really endearing and I think it shows off like their personalities in like a really nice subtle way that just like lets you get to know them and their dynamic with their team. And then I also think to just combine my last couple points, that's my theme of the day apparently is to combine my points, is that I also think it showed off their friendship well. And not by I mean, they did do this, but I think that they did a really good balance between telling us that they were friends and showing us that they were friends. There's a difference between saying Perry sitting there saying like, "Oh, Perry's like or Perry, Jesse's like my bestest friend in the whole wide world, blah 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 blah." And that's telling us and like, okay, sure, we could believe you, we could not. And then there's showing us the like bitch better get our vibe dance crew clip. um, which shows us that they're friends.
Yeah.
So I think like there's a good balance between they tell us they are and then the clips back up what they say so that we believe them. And I think that even those are done in really endearing ways. Like I think the whole thing just makes them seem very relatable and endearing and down to earth. And so I really love that from a fan perspective.
Yeah, same. Um, sorry, I just keep thinking the first gonna pop and lock. No, give you this shoulder a nudge. um, okay, so the I guess second to last point I have is I liked how their moms made an appearance. Um, and I guess like more into that, like especially the interactions that we got between them. Like I liked how we got them saying goodbye to them because even though it was really sad and stuff, they've always talked about how hard it is to leave their families and how homesick they get. And so it was kind of, I don't know what the word is. It was just, I guess, like different to actually see it. And you're like, oh, like now we see it. I don't know if that makes sense, but um, I thought that was a good portion. I don't know what I'm saying. A good section in there. And
Mhm.
just like the little interactions, like how Lee's family came down and was talking to her and like praising her and all that stuff, and how Jade's mom was like so excited when they won the Brit Award. Um, yeah, just really all the little moments were like nice to see between them. And then my last point is I like the amount of fans that were featured. Um, like when they had the signing at FYE, we got to see some American fans, which was kind of nice because we aren't ever featured anywhere.
Mm.
So that was cool to see that many people, I guess, from the US being like, oh, there they are. We
We
always hear about
exist
them. Yeah,
and
exactly.
sometimes we convene in the same place.
Yeah, like them all singing I think it was FU in the line at the CD signing and the FYE, and I was like I can just imagine like that must have been so fun.
We
Um
have taste. We have taste.
yeah. Um and then at the end more like I guess global fans were featured and they had nice little personal messages. I think that was just cool to kind of stick that at the end too. So it was like a little message to them as it closed off and I thought that was really sweet. So yeah, I liked those little I guess points in there.
Are we moving on to the cons?
Yes.
Okay. From a fan perspective, one of the things that, and I kind of already talked about this from like a producer perspective, but this is a con for me as a fan as well, which is the inclusion of the some of the live professional tour videos that were only 30 seconds a minute 20 long. So first of all, the way they were edited was they're absolutely not meant to be full length like video, like tour videos like Get Weird or LM5. They absolutely were never intended to be that way based on the way they're edited. However, as a fan, um, I see that they clearly had the capability to do the recording, and that makes I want it. I just combined words to say that, guys. Let's try again. It just means that like I saw the capability for them to have done it, and then I wanted it, and I didn't get it. So not to sound spoiled or anything, but I saw that you had the capability to record all of FU as a live performance from cool different angles, and then I saw that you didn't give it to me, and I was sad. And that's how that works. I also like the thing too is I adore the summer shoutout tour. It's like one of my favorites. And so the fact that like I have half recorded like performances and I would even take the editing style that they were doing. Like it definitely was not an editing style that was meant to be like a tour concert performance, but I would still take that editing style if I could get the whole song. Like I'm fine with that. I just want the whole thing. um I just I just love that tour so much and I just wish we had more professional recorded footage from it. But that's a talk for another day. Go ahead.
It's like dangling a carrot and like, here,
It
we
is.
have it, but you can't have it.
You're like, I have it all in my like multiple hard drives that you'll never have access to. Mwahaha.
Yeah. Oh. So something that I would
Wait,
have
I'm so
liked
sorry.
to.
Can we start a hashtag for Adam to release that footage?
Yes, I
Yeah,
would have loved to have
can
like a
we?
compilation.
He doesn't have to release like anything like what like personal to the girls or anything. I just legit want the stage footage. Can I have that? Like,
Yeah, there's no harm in it.
yeah, can I have that? Can we start a hashtag? Guys, start a hashtag.
We're gonna do it because I would like some of that footage.
Honestly, no.
Like, please. Even if we have to pick certain songs, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll
We all
pick
just have to
certain
agree.
songs. Like, fuck Black Magic, guys. Fuck Black Magic. We want FU,
Mhm.
okay? We want screw Secret Love Song because all they do is stand there.
Power.
Power. We want Power. We want FU. We want Nobody Like You.
Yes.
Yep. Imagine a professionally recorded Nobody Like You. Guys,
God, I don't think you guys understand.
we could have Salute
Please.
Down and Dirty, professionally recorded.
Yes. Yeah, this needs to happen. This needs to
I'm just
happen.
saying, okay? It exists. It exists. I saw it. I never got it. I'm salty.
Oh, yeah. So things I would have liked to have seen. Um, First thing is I would have liked to have seen more sit down interviews because we got the individual interviews, but I would have liked to have at least one that was maybe like all four of them together. Um, just kind of the same way they had them for the search.
I was literally just about to say that.
Yeah, like just it doesn't have to be like very long or we don't need much of it like used, just like little bits of it so like when they want to talk about like a topic they can like kind of bounce off of each other. And that would solve probably some of the whole skipping around that I didn't really like. So I feel like that would have been cool. I also would have liked some from their team instead of just having like a subtitle when they popped up on the screen. I would have liked to have seen just something because I feel like we don't really get to know about them that much. I would just kind of like to know like their role and stuff. So even though it's like their documentary, I feel like it would have
What
been
does
cool.
Claude do as dance captain?
Yeah, like just stuff like that. I don't know, or like he doesn't even have to. It doesn't even have to be like about themselves. I just would have liked to have like a variety because I don't know.
I
Um,
mean, we don't need to like necessarily get to know them as people, but like maybe just like a little insight into like their relationship with the girls and like what
yeah,
exactly they do like
like a
for
funny
tour.
story,
Yeah, just
little
something that gives us
anecdote.
an idea of like what their place is in Little Mix's life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the same thing with their moms. Instead of having them just kind of like chilling around um here and there in some scenes, it would have been like nice to have more of a sit down interview with them. And so like when Lee was talking about how her family was always supportive, it could be like one of them maybe having a memory of that, and like just I feel like that would have been a nice addition. It's not needed, but I just would have liked to have seen it.
I feel like that's definitely heading more into documentary style
Yeah, so that's
and
probably
out
the
of
reason
tour
why it's
diary.
not there. I like documentaries.
Yeah, we all call this the Glory Days documentary, but like,
It's really a tour diary.
yeah, despite the fact that the structural intent is confusing, it's leaning towards tour diary.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that I wish we had gotten more of, and I'm going to keep the mic still, um, is that I wish, and I don't just wish this necessarily of like this, I don't just wish this of this tour diary documentary in particular, but like overall in Little Mix world. I just wish that we got more footage and more stories and more detailed answers about things that like what they actually do every day. Like what does it mean to shoot a music video? What do dance rehearsals look like for the Brits? What Jade was crying about to record a vocal. What was she recording? What Where were they? Why was it happening? Like obviously the scene is included for impact and sympathy, and it totally works, but like clearly there was something on tour that had to be recorded, and we saw absolutely none of that other than just to see her break down, which was too further along the storyline of being Little Mix is harder than it looks. But we didn't actually really get to see what it means to be in Little Mix. They just talked about the fact that it's not what we think it is, but then they didn't tell us what it was. So I just wish that we got more of that stuff, like more of them talking about their own vocals, like their own decisions in the studio, um, like the just more of like their creative input, I guess, and things that happen. And yeah, because there was like, even though I enjoyed these moments, like the golfing and the bowling and the moms just sitting around the power like music video, though they were funny and endearing, like some of that could have been taken out or swapped to or shortened to give us like more like I think the most creative thing we saw them really do was be like, yo, we talked about the Shout to My Ex performance at the Brits previously, and what you sent us isn't what we agreed to. That's like the most like creative we really saw them be. And it's like the most kind of like behind the scenes in depth thing that we saw happen. And I just wish there was more of that. And I also just like seeing the dance rehearsals. So I love like the Nashville and London like Brit like dance rehearsals. I thought that was so interesting. I would watch hours of like the whole dance rehearsal, but that's just me. Um I mean I would also do that for like a vocal studio recording too. I like to be a fly on the wall. So yeah, that's something else I just wish had been included a bit more.
Yeah, so the last thing I would have liked to have seen is pretty much the same thing as you. I feel like we got a lot of the fun stuff, but we didn't have a lot of the more in-depth work stuff. Um, and so I would have liked to have seen more of them recording vocals, kind of like just getting ready for whatever it is, tour, the Brits, rehearsal, the bus, like anything. And even like a little breakdown of the music video process or something. Like when they could be like, oh, we're doing this now. We had to do this before. Like even just explaining it would have been nice. Like you said, more rehearsals and just all of the stuff that they talked about, but we didn't really get to see, or the stuff that they showed for like a split second and then moved on. I would like to have seen more of like the more creative work aspect of it.
All right, so that is it, I think, right?
Yeah.
Overall thoughts, enjoyed this significantly more than the LM5 tour film.
Yeah.
I do enjoy this one a lot more. I do like to kind of go back and rewatch some of these, and they make me smile. Like I said, I do really love it because it kind of just is like the essence of the Glory Days era in some ways, and that's really like it's just that's a really special thing to go back and watch sometimes. Like sometimes like it'll just hit me. And so I don't know, I just think there's something special about it. So for all of its kind of execution flaws, I think that it's a win for me.
Yeah, it was definitely I definitely wouldn't have noticed all these points like the first time around because like I've watched this a few times like fully throughout and I never really thought twice about some of these points because I was kind of watching it as like a, oh, new footage or oh, I missed this and want to watch it again. And then when I went and watched it before this episode, I was watching it with more of like a analytical state of mind and I was like, "Oh, I never would have thought that I would want to change this." So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Going in with a different perspective always changes things up.
Yeah.
So that is our thoughts on the Glory Days documentary, tour diaries, whatever you want to call it, depending on the theory that you have. And we enjoyed getting to do this. Let us know, guys, if you want us to do something like this for the Get Weird tour concert, like performances. I don't even know what to call that. Um, but that is definitely going to be a more similar review to the LM5 tour film, but because they're both like actual concert footage. But yeah, let us know if you'd want to see us do those as well, and we will see you guys next week.